Hello friends, welcome to the software world. I'm Can Dost. Here I'm on a mission to make connections between the software industry and our individual and unique lives. We all have a common goal of solving problems with software. Whatever happens on our journeys will not stay mysterious anymore. Welcome to another episode of Software World with Can Dost. And today my guest is Benedicte Raae. Benedicte lives in Oslo, Norway with her family, and they are together with the family, they formed the Lily Labs, which is the company behind the POW app. POW is a privacy-first menstrual cycle journal, and Benedicte herself has 20 plus years of coding experience, and she's working as a contractor besides POW app. They launched the POW app in International Women's Day in March 8, 2020, last year. And I was really curious about hearing how the privacy-first approach is possible in a health app and all the journey they have been in with her family. As a family, they are doing amazing things. And I watched a couple of live stream recordings and then seeing all the energy from Benedicte and her family is an amazing thing. And during this talk, we talked about mostly being an indie hacker and how to navigate the life as an indie hacker. We talked about the POW app, we talked about the YouTube, we talked about how the privacy-first approach is possible, and through the end, you will hear some suggestions from Benedicte if you are thinking to develop your own app. I really have a lot of respect for the people who develop their apps on the side as an indie hacker or indie developer. And the amazing energy of Benedicte was really enjoyable, and I laughed a lot, and you will hear that through the episode. I really enjoyed this episode, and I hope you do too. Welcome, Benedicte. I'm really glad that you are here, being in Software World show with me, which I'm pretty excited because you are the first indie hacker / developer that you are here, that I have as a guest.
Woohoo!
And I'm really glad that you're here. Welcome.
Thank you. It's good to be here. It's nice to be asked to talk about your side projects and indie hacking.
Yeah, I guess it's like whatever you work on, it should be exciting, like as an side project or you're as an indie hacker.
Definitely. Always nice when people are interested. It can get lonely at times. You're sitting there and you don't hear from your customers, and you're like, okay, I don't know if this is good or bad. It's nice when people are interested, you know.
Yeah, then how do you keep this, like, the mood? I mean, because I see from your videos and from like all of the things that I follow you have a very good, like, high level of energy. And then, like, being an indie developer, developing your own app, and then, as you said, you don't hear from your customers a lot. How do you keep up with this energy? Like, maybe, I don't know. How are you so energetic? That's like my curiosity.
Well, that's going to be a hard question. Part of it is just born that way, I guess. But I also think the reason I started with those updates on video, I started with edited videos and my energy was kind of okay. But then I moved into live streaming, which just suits my personality a lot more. And whenever you have to do, or I need to prepare for these monthly status updates, as I call them, I kind of have to like actually look through what I've done, look through the numbers and like look through everything. And whenever I do that, there's always things I've already forgotten. Even if it's just been a month, you know, if something happened at the beginning of the month and then at the end of the month, it's like, oh, I haven't done anything, or, you know, nobody likes this product, or, you know, you can get these moods, or at least I can. Also the reason why I'm making a menstrual cycle journal, though, because those things are connected. But then I kind of have to go through and then remind myself actually every month about what I've managed to accomplish, or, you know, sometimes what I didn't manage to accomplish. But then when I have to kind of explain that to somebody else, you know, that unknown somebody that is hopefully going in to look at my videos, I kind of end up like with a pep talk somehow, which is like, it's nice. So every month I get that, oh, I actually, you know, did something, I accomplished something. And sometimes looking at the numbers, like the last one for March, we suddenly had 8 new customers or users, which was like, oh, I hadn't really realized that we had gotten that many in like all of the funness of celebrating Pau's 1 year birthday, as we called it. But and then I was very surprised. But then this time it will probably be, I don't know, as energetic, because I'm looking at the numbers from April and there are 0 new customers. So, but it goes up and down. And I think that all of the fun stuff we managed to have happening in March online kind of drove some sales. So that's kind of a teaching moment for me, that when I actually talk about it and actually try to kind of not really sell, but when I like tell people that my product exists, I do get new customers. So I guess something I need to work on is being consistent in that marketing, so that people actually hear about the product and sign up for the product and pay for the product and all that.
I do the same actually. Like this,
Yeah.
especially with your monthly updates. I have a newsletter, and I do it monthly. I freaking love writing that newsletter. By the way, every month, and part of me says, "Come on, do it every week. Why don't you do it every week? Because it's so fun." But I just like try to like limit myself on that, saying that okay, just calm down, and then that's the newsletter that you are using to keep sane, keep your sanity. And then like when I write it, I say, oh, okay, yeah, that's what I accomplished, because I have this exact same feeling that I did nothing for a whole month.
And then you
That's
look back at your commits and your
exactly.
communication with people, and you're like, yes, I actually did a lot. I think a month is good for that, because usually in a month you've accomplished something. While in a week, like at least I can have weeks where I haven't accomplished
Same
so
here.
much.
Yeah, of course.
But like within a month, it's a good time span to like look back. And I'm really bad at doing these things only for myself. So if I like with my status updates, kind of, I don't know how many people actually like sit and wait for it to come out, but like at least I've said it, that it will come out every 8th or the 8th of every month, and that keeps me accountable to do that. And then I kind of get to review the status and kind of review my goals and all of those things. That I'm not the person that would just sit down and do that one night kind of just for myself, even though that's good. So I need that kind of outside accountability, and I make sure that I do something that gives me that kind of outside accountability. The whole, I'm too old to think that I will change, so I'm just gonna stick to what works for me, and create that outside expectation that I need to actually sit down and go through and give myself that pep talk every month.
Yeah, I exactly have this similar idea, but I want to go a little bit, like I want to roll back from
Yes.
all of this, and I'm
People might
curious
not know
about.
what we're talking about.
Yes, exactly. So
Yeah.
I want to roll back and then see like how did you start creating Pow app, and how did you decide to become an indie actually? Because like I know, and most probably people will know after this show, or maybe they can follow you after this show. They will find the links in the description. But you also have a job. I mean, it's like I don't know how, like a contractual job, maybe full time, but you have an app. And how did you decide to start this journey actually?
Yes, we can start with so what is POW? It's the Privacy First Menstrual Cycle Journal. I need to work on that tagline. It's a mouthful. But so it's the privacy first way of tracking your menstrual cycle. And it came about 2 years ago, after I kind of had spent some years not doing that much kind of outwards activity. I'd been focusing on client work and raising a child. And then I was thinking about kind of getting back into the groove of going to meetups and those kinds of things. And I went to something called Global Diversity CFP day. So CFP is called for proposals. It's what you send in to be accepted as a speaker at conferences. And it was a meetup where we were taught like how to do that and a way to get a more diverse group of people speaking at tech conferences. So me and the intern, as I call her, my daughter, went to that, and then we learned there like different ways of coming up with ideas. So at the time, I had some Gatsby ideas. I wanted to, do something around kind of Gatsby tech. I didn't really know. But then I think it was a week after, the Wall Street Journal came out with this report that most of the health apps that you find in the App Store collect all of your health data and shares it with third parties. There are like some pretty kind of awful scenarios where one app is share the data back to your employer. Another app shares the data to, because in America, then they get the app through kind of their company, but they don't really know that the app then shares the data with the employer. And then there's another, like one of the most popular apps was found to share event data with Facebook, which means that you can then get, ads targeted to where you are in your cycle or whether or not you're trying to, to conceive and those kinds of things. And it got me thinking, would it be possible to make a more private app like this? And that ended up being kind of my talk proposal, because one of the things we learned is something you can make a talk on is something you want to figure out, and then you can create a talk proposal, and then if it's accepted, you have to figure it out or you have to research it.
Yeah, true.
So again, that outside accountability. But so I ended up writing a talk proposal that was called a privacy first menstrual tracker. Is it even possible? And I had some kind of things I wanted to hit. Like I wanted to be impossible for me as a developer to read or access the user's data. I wanted to be accessible on multiple of devices, and some other things. And I started researching that, and it ended up being a talk on end-to-end encryption, which is kind of the solution to this question I posed. And I did that. I was accepted to 4 conferences. So the fall of 2019, I guess it was, I ended up doing this talk at 4 conferences. But during the time I was procrastinating making the slides, which is always my kind of last thing I do, I found this opportunity to be part of a competition where, this competition for privacy apps. And I ended up joining that and kind of created the prototype of POW while I was procrastinating creating the talk or creating the slides. And it turned out it was possible, and I created that prototype. And then at that time, kind of that article that was in the Wall Street Journal did the rounds in Norwegian newspapers. So the Norwegian kind of Financial Times did almost the same article, that these health apps are sharing your data and what do we think about that. And they interviewed different women in Norway. And then I emailed the reporter and I said, hey, I'm making an app that solves this, where everything is end-to-end encrypted and totally private. And at the end of the interview, and then she called me back, and at the end of the interview, she asked me, so when are you launching? And I said, March 8th, International Women's Day. And that's what I did. So I launched POW then on March 8th, 2020, a little over a year ago, on International Women's Day. And that was 3 days before lockdown in Norway. So it was we went out with a bang. We had like a big party or a big brunch. And it was an awesome day where we launched POW. And I would say we launched what I would call a minimal viable product. Like it wasn't complete in any sense, and it still isn't complete in any sense. But then again, when is software ever complete? But we delivered, or we launched something that was usable. You can track your cycle, and you do it in more of a journal format. Because it turns out that when everything is completely private and end-to-end encrypted, I have no access to this on the back end, then the data doesn't have to be as structured as these other applications do. Like they will ask you very intimate details about symptoms and moods and those kinds of things. And I've always felt that they're kind of invasive also in a way. And I mean, the idea of an app like this has been in my mind since, I guess, university, which is like 15 years ago, 10 years, 13 years ago, well, a long time ago. But there were like so many apps. So when that article hit from the Wall Street Journal, I was like, but what, how could we make it private? Like that's how it got my kind of creative juices going. But so back to that, like I've always felt they were kind of invasive and I didn't really want to answer all those questions. Like I wanted to follow the things that I cared about, not what the app cared about. And since I don't access this on the back end, I can't really use it for any like big data mining or sharing it with Facebook or anything like that. I can give the user a much more kind of journaling approach where they just write however they're feeling, more like a diary entry, and then they hashtag, like you would hashtag on Twitter or Instagram, the words that they want to keep a closer eye on, and then I predict those kind of tags in the future. And this spring we're also going to make some visualizations where you can then kind of analyze your cycle yourself. So it's not kind of any AI or anything like that, but you will see a visual representation of the tags you select. And then you can kind of try to make up your own mind and get to know your own cycle in your own way instead of relying on kind of the app to do that and the app to run like big data learning on your symptoms. So it's a novel approach. And because it's private, it's also giving us like a different take on the UI since we don't really need that structured data because we can't use it for anything.
That was
that
like
was a long. Did I answer any of your questions?
No. It's all good, all good. Actually, like you answered the next two questions of mine,
Yeah.
which is great. Now, like I'm more curious about like because you said that the privacy first approach, actually enabled you to create more freedom, as far as I understood, on the technical side.
So the privacy thing, it gives me the opportunity to create a completely different UI because my premise is not that I will analyze this data in a big data AI kind of way, because I will never be able to be as accurate as the other apps, because they will then run analysis on all their users because they have access to that on the back end.
Yes.
But since it's all end-to-end encrypted, I never have access to this. Then I can't give my users kind of that benefit, but I can then give them the benefit of customizing this a lot more to their own usage because I don't need that structured kind of very detailed thing. So you can use your own words. So for instance, myself, I have this mood, I call it molafunk. It's an old Norwegian word that I don't really know exactly what it means, but I know what it means to me. So whenever I have that mood, I can log it as molafunk. While when I was using these other apps, it was like it's like a mix between like anxious, maybe depressed, sad. And I never remembered what I'd logged it as. But now that I can use my own word, then it's easier for me to log my cycle. And I'm thinking also then for people who are not native English speakers, like they can then use their own words and their own language when they are logging their cycles instead of being kind of put into the mold or the box of the app. So I think that's like I at least see that as a benefit in addition to the privacy aspect of our app, that you can feel more kind of it's your own private thing, your own private language, instead of fitting it into, am I one of these like faces that you have to select, or like, exactly how much are you bleeding? Like, and then you have to select between 5 different ways of describing that. You can then just use kind of your own terminology.
Yeah, it's like also putting a word into the feelings is tough. So I think that will be that your approach sounds to me more like a beneficial, because like I speak English, but it's not my mother tongue, and most of the apps, if I log into any journal with some predefined conditions, then it will be hard for me to use these apps, because my native language is Turkish,
Mhm.
but it will never be support. Like most often, it doesn't support Turkish language
No, exactly. And
in
I'm
most
Norwegian, like
apps.
nobody, like we're
Yeah,
5 million people. It's like never
yeah,
translated into Norwegian.
yeah,
So
exactly.
yeah, so it's very true. And also different cultures have different like ranges of emotions and ways to talk
Hmm.
about emotions. So
Exactly.
it's hard to fit into often like the American context of how they describe their emotions. Or their symptoms, because like
Yeah,
physical symptoms also is not something we learn, in school. It's usually not the English we learn. Like it's more of the
exactly.
conversational English or the business English, not like menstrual cycle terminology English. So yeah, I
Yeah.
think that's a benefit, in addition to the privacy aspect, but they kind of go hand in hand. And I think also if you look at the other privacy products coming up now, like privacy friendly or focused or first analytics, they often also kind of give that. They're simpler because they collect less data, but then they manage to make that kind of simpler as a benefit for the user, because then it will be easier for them to look at the analytics because there's like
Hmm.
less stuff there. It's like the most important stuff. So it's interesting to see that many of kind of the privacy focused products, hand in hand with that, you get some things that you can turn into benefit in addition to the privacy part. But you also asked, I think, why it's indie at the
Yeah,
beginning of
true.
this.
I
Yeah.
had I had that question. True. Why
So,
indie?
yeah, so this is not like my first side project. I found it really hard over the years to call myself a founder, because I mostly, the money I've made over the last, I graduated from computer science major, or master of computer science in 2009. And then I spent a year as a consultant. And after that, I started my own company, or I've been independent or freelance or contracting or whatever you want to call it since then. And I've had many side projects, and some have made me a lot of money. Some have made me no money, and mostly I've done them for like learning and fun and the experience and just like the joy of creating. But other people have been like, "Oh, you're one of those founders," and I'm like, I'm not really a founder. I'm more of a creator. Like I feel more connection to people who paint or like make things just because
Hmm.
they want to make things than kind of the Silicon Valley founder unicorn kind of startup narrative. So I always found that hard when people like call me a founder and entrepreneur, because I haven't really felt like that type. But now with POW, I'm actually starting to call myself a founder, because I found something that I think I want to keep doing or have as a side project for the next 10 years. And I wanted to succeed because I wanted to be out there in the world. And if it's going to be out there in the world for years and years, it needs to also, make money. But I'm not interested in that kind of funding, going big, working
Hmm.
80 hours a week, that kind of way of living. So it's a very like conscious decision to make it an indie application. And during those 10 years, like what I've always done then got a name, indie hacking, which is interesting. Um, and so then I kind of just put that in my like title, I guess, indie hacker, because then then it's a term. At least some people know what it means.
Yes, true.
Yeah, but I say I want to keep it as a side thing, like, or a part, something I do part time, but part time for a really long time, because I've found that
Hmm.
really works for me. The times I've tried to do kind of one of these side projects full time, I get a little bit bored. I always or a little bit more stressed. Like things need to happen a lot
Hmm.
faster. But splitting my time now, so it's been a lot of experimenting over the last 10 years. But now I really feel like I've found the perfect match, where I do about 50% of the year contracting. And contracting I've done all kinds of contracting, but the contracting that is sticking with me is kind of what we would look at as really boring contracting. Like I show up, I do my issues. But they're really interesting tech wise, but they're in big organization where things takes a lot of time, which I never would have been able to. I would never be able to work there full time, because things
Hmm.
move too slowly. But since I do that about 50% of the time, and then 50% of the time I do my side project and a little bit of other fun things, then together it like gives me kind of the everyday life that I would like. So I feel like I've really found that a good kind of trade-off between the different ways of working.
It's like being a part-time creator on the side.
Yeah.
That's, I think I heard this term like somewhere on the internet. I'm not really sure who said that, but that's a nice call. And I want to a bit. I'm curious on the side that the how are the numbers actually, because so you have a freelancing or a job that brings money.
We call it contracting because contracting pays more than freelancing.
Okay.
That's a
I
tip.
didn't know that.
That's a tip for everyone out there. Never call yourself a freelancer because people think they can get you for cheap. If you call yourself a contractor, then it's like proper business and you're not. Like you can demand higher rates.
Okay, I learned something today,
Yes.
and I'm gonna go and change my naming, like my title on the website,
Yes, do
my
that.
website, so people won't say that they're coming that you are too expensive, etc. Okay, good to know. Thanks a lot. But I'm curious about like the growth side. So my curiosity lies in the process of making this app for 10 years. This is like a good commitment. And in these days, actually, I'm more focused on the long-term goals of mine. It's not goals, actually. I try to focus on the processes instead of having some specific goals for a really short time. And that's why I'm like more interested in the numbers and how do you stay alive with this work? Does it pay itself? Not maybe the effort, but the money you spend on it, does it pay itself? And how the finance look like?
Yeah. So now we have about 50 active customers, and it's $45 a year. And then we have some people that have quit. I just looked at the numbers. I think we're like 2.5. It would be 2,500 euros, I guess, in net profit or net sales. I guess not profit because I worked a lot on this product, but that's what we've made. And I'm just about to spend all that money on getting some dev help this spring. So in that regard, it's like zero. But the privilege that I have being in Oslo, Norway, is that the hourly rate of contracting is really high. So working 50% of the time on contracts gives me what I need or our family needs to live, kind of our everyday expenses, a pretty like decent living. So the other time I see it more, as we were talking about, as like a hobby or as a creator. As you said, I have friends who are painters and they do their work and then they go paint, and they don't talk about like, oh, my paint is costing me money, so I'm going to stop doing it, because they have to create. Yeah. So I see it more like that's, I spend, that other part, or that, that time that I have a side project, I spend that on coding and marketing. But obviously I hope within these 10 years that POW would at some point be where I kind of get back the time that I put into it at some point. But then again, I'm not really sure how much time I put into it, because I'm not really that good at tracking my hours when it's not for the contracting work. But but I feel a lot more about like the energy. So I would like to have kind of the same income, or like at least like half of the income I get from contracting coming from POW at some point. But right now, as you said, like I focus more on doing the work and finding a way to market and finding a way to be consistent with the development. And I see that at this point, like I've gotten to a point where I'm like second guessing myself too much when it comes to the coding somehow, because it's my own product. I don't have these feelings as much at the contracting gig. So I thought, okay, I need to get on board. I need another senior developer on board to just like help me get past my own like questioning and analysis paralysis, or what it's called. So now I'm investing some money in that, and I'm also investing some money in getting help to write content, and we'll see how that goes. So that's money I've made from contracting that I'm putting back, and also the money I've made from POW so far that I'm putting back into POW.
That's like an interesting approach, because what I hear from like some people that who creates the content online or develops an app by themselves, I never heard someone saying that they put extra money from their contractual work to there, but defining it as a hobby and then everyone's okay spending money on their hobbies, like painting, all the creative work. Let's
Yeah.
not call it hobby, but the creative work,
Mhm.
and which makes you happy.
Mhm.
That sounded me a really good strategy. Now I'm considering back my own creative work.
Mhm.
It's like this is now, yeah, it makes me think actually, and I'm considering, okay, why if I fall, like if I pull myself back in these kind of situations, maybe I need to consider that way as well, like getting a hand help for some other things that I do. Like for example, I like writing. Maybe I can even get some extra support for that. Now I'm considering a lot actually.
Yeah, and if you see, I think we're both in the blogging for dev community. I think
Yes.
Max Lynch, I guess his name is.
Hmm.
He got an editor pretty early on, even though he didn't have any income really for what he was
Hmm.
doing. But he realized, okay, I need to become a better writer. It's something I enjoy. That's a way for me to market whatever I'm going to make. So getting an editor at this point so that I can actually acquire this skill now that I have the time, and also while I'm like finding the projects I'm going to make, then that will help me down the line. And it's just like a good, like, writing is a fun thing for some people. I don't enjoy writing. That's why I do live streaming. but but like you have to like find these, these things, and it's okay to get help,
Yeah.
and it's okay to take classes and courses, and as if you have the finances, as we were saying, like I do horseback riding. I probably spent more money on classes, because it's an expensive hobby,
Yeah.
there, than I have done. Well, maybe not on POW if you factor in my hours, but yeah, we feel okay spending money on those things. So uh, as long as you don't spend all the money you were supposed to live off
Yeah.
of, and your family needs, and all, be financially good or smart with your money. I don't know. I'm not that old. I'm soon 40. I'm in this mood where I'm like, I'm old. I'm getting old.
No, you're not.
but but I also feel like I am much more open to getting help now. I'm also much more open to thinking long term than I have. Like 10 years ago, I
Hmm.
would never like tie myself down to doing something for 10 years. But now I'm like really excited that I can work on POW for hopefully 10 years. I might change my mind, but I see with POW there's so many possibilities. I can do so much fun stuff around it. There's like activism, there's education, there's the actual app, there is, I could do merchandise. I mean, there's so much I can do. Like I can see myself building a world around POW, and I want to do it slowly. I want to do it kind of consciously. I don't want to burn myself out like within the first year trying to get like massive growth. Um,
Hmm.
and and also with that, I've learned to kind of manage my energy. I guess it's like a hippie way of talking. When I heard about that in the beginning, I was like, what? But sometimes some things just drags drags your energy, even though it isn't really something that would take a long time, for instance. So in the last couple of years, I gotten a virtual assistant, and she can help me with things that would take me like a day of procrastination, and she'll do it in 10 minutes. And I pay her for those 10 minutes, or like I pay her probably a little bit more than for those 10 minutes, but it like alleviates me from like going around like having, feeling bad that I haven't done it, or,
Hmm.
spending hours procrastinating on it. So being smart in kind of like using the money, if you have the money, in that way, I find very liberating. And not thinking that, oh, at some point I'll be like, mature enough to do these things
Hmm.
without procrastinating, which is never going to happen. It's better to get somebody who kind of enjoys that job and enjoys doing that work, and does that for a living. And then I can focus on the things that I'm good at.
That's a very good strategy. And yeah, within, like as I said, within these days, I'm also trying to get into the mind. Maybe like right now, I became 30, so I'm
Mm-hmm.
a little bit younger than you.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm also maybe I'm doing kind of a planning, not a planning actually, but telling myself that whatever I start right now, I need to, or I want to actually do it for years. Then I don't want to directly jump in front of I don't know, the popularity or anything. That's not my goal. I just want to I just want to play the game.
Mm-hmm.
That's nothing. I don't want championships right now for anything. I just want to play the game. That's what I tell to myself in these days.
Yeah,
actually.
and I see a lot of indie hackers, younger indie hackers, often who like they have this thing where they have to go all in. It has to be like full time.
Yeah.
They have about 6 months of runway, and they're just going to do this, and within those 6 months, they're going to be making back their salary. And for some
Hmm.
people, it happens, but for most people, it doesn't happen. Like if you actually start looking through the accounts of people, it's often taking them years and years and years of like testing different things. Like I've done so many different side projects, and some of them could have gone somewhere, but I realized they would give me a life I wouldn't want. I would need investment, for instance, and I don't want to go down that
Hmm.
route. And then I've stopped those and I've like tested. So now when I kind of found POW, I know the way I want to do it, and I'm going to do it slower than many people expect from me. Because I have that contracting work that I can like lean back on, and it in some ways, some people will say that then I'm not like urgent, like it will make me less hungry or something, like that kind of very like the American narrative. But I feel like I do better work when I have that security, and I don't kind of, because I know I'm the kind of person that would burn out. So I am very
Hmm.
mindful of that I don't kind of just like have no money, and like have to be hungry to do it. Like I know, and it depends like on your personality, but I feel that's lost in kind of the talk when we talk about these things, that and all of the the tweets and everything, where it's like this is the only way to do it, and do like me and you'll be rich.
Hmm.
But
Yeah.
if you start looking behind a lot of these people and their stories don't often align with what they're saying, and also you are not in their shoes. Like there are so many things that you don't know about that person, um, and and you have to like figure out what is good for your own life and kind of your own situation and your own risk tolerance and your own strengths and all of those things, that I've learned over the years. I sound like this like hippie lady. I'm so not. Not that there's anything wrong with that, but I guess like coming from a very like technical scientific background, I guess
Hmm.
I'm gotten more open to kind of some self exploration and realizing your what you want yourself, and like you do you is a saying, instead of
Yeah.
trying to like emulate somebody else.
Yeah, that's like one of the also things that I realized maybe a bit late. Than I burnt out last year, and I took a month of sick leave.
Hmm.
Then I realized that yes, that's true. That I shouldn't be doing or approaching this way. I shouldn't be doing these kind of things, and it took time, but you go there at the end, because if you take a look at the people online only, and then all indie hackers, indie developers, or I don't know, creators or other people who got successful, either you see them years of struggle, or they are very privileged.
Hmm.
So like either one of them, there is no the middle ground.
Yeah. But
And
sometimes it's
then
both. Like they've struggled, even though they've
exactly.
had privilege, they haven't managed to do anything of their privilege.
Yes.
It's like so many stories. But yeah, sorry.
Yeah, yeah. So it's yeah. When I like when we look at them, then I see that okay, yeah, this is playing the long game. This
Hmm.
is I think I don't remember where did I read this, but it's maybe in Atomic Habits. I'm not sure, from James Clear,
Hmm.
and it was saying that the staying in the game or playing the game is actually more important than the winning the game, because if you just stay in the game and then try to play the game as better than you did before,
Hmm.
then eventually you will win something.
Yeah, and
And
especially I think if you enjoy yourself along the way, you're
exactly.
already winning, because that's at least my approach a lot. It's like as long as my every like I'd rather have really good like everyday life, and then I am also
Mhm.
like I need a vacation every now and then to like do something extra special. But like if my everyday kind of life is good, then you don't need these like extraordinary things happening in the future. Like
Yeah.
your life is good, then keep on living that life and learning. And the great thing about doing what I guess you're doing and I'm doing is like we can learn new things all the time. And there's always something to learn, and there's always something new to explore. And if you like that kind of exploring and learning, then kind of you're having the fun and the life you want along the way. And there's this famous YouTube video that I now don't, of course, remember, but where it's this famous YouTuber, and then he managed to like hit all his goals, and then he was like, and then what? Like he like it
Yeah.
was like it wasn't fun anymore. And so he also talks about that, like, find something that you think is fun along the way and just keep on doing that, instead of like, having some like finite thing and then stop doing it. And it's also interesting if you listen to the Software Social, I think the podcast is with Michelle Hansen. She also talks about that, where people are like, well, you would sell, wouldn't you, if the money is just good enough? And she's like, why would I sell? Like, I love serving my customers. I love working on this product. I love my life. Like, why would I sell even for like, billions of dollars? Because then I would and she said, like, well, then I would have to figure out a new product to make, because, her life stream isn't to like lay on a yacht in the Bahamas for years and years and years, maybe for a week. Like, we all could probably like a week, but after that, you don't want to be there you want to create, then, she wants to stay with her product. So, yeah, just to agree with you,
Yeah.
I guess.
Yeah, with all that, so like in this process, like because the curious, like I'm more curious on right now that the challenges that you have faced, and as an indie developer right now we are talking about the processes and
Yeah.
like how we are playing the long game, how you are playing the long game and you want to play the long game.
Yeah.
But on the side, both in Pow app and also in this indie journey, what's the biggest challenge that you have faced until now?
I think it's hard. I think kind of the hardest part has been to stay the course, the like kind of the course that I intuitively knew I wanted at the beginning with POW, after learning from my other kind of endeavors. But even so, it's like easy when you read and you get input to kind of be like, oh, that would be smart. Like, I can see why that would be smart. And then kind of the strategy shifting a little bit. And then thinking like, I should do more, I should do other things, and then kind of second guessing your initial strategy, I guess, has been hard. So that's happened to me. And then I heard this talk and by the co-founder of Plausible, the marketing guy. And I was like, yes, all of the things he's talking about, that was my plan for POW. When did I forget that? Like, when did I forget that I wanted to be open source? When did I forget that I wanted this to, like, be the long game? I need that kind of content. And I want to go after developers first, because those are the people I know. And then I was like, yeah, I just need to course correct back to my like original plan. And I think that's a little bit hard when you're coding by yourself and like doing a lot of the things by yourself. I can end up going into these like circles where I'm like, oh, I should do X. No, I should do Y. Now I should do X. No, I should do Y. And it kind of like torque yourself back and forth. And I think the way out of that is talking to other people, I'm now in a mastermind where we kind of have to verbalize our goals, and it's easier to kind of stay on course if they're written down, I think, or as I've done with the videos, it's helpful to kind of get it out there. And I'm not the kind of person who does that like alone. I don't write like a strategy document for myself, unfortunately. But then being in those kind of groups, I'm forced to kind of be specific and verbalize and write it down, and then I can like stay the path easier, I guess. So that's a challenge. But also, I'm not that good at talking about challenges because I usually forget what has been challenging.
That's why I ask, actually, because
but then some people are like, wasn't that challenging? I'm like, yeah, but we fixed it, or we didn't fix it, but I learned something from it.
That's why I ask, because we don't go and reflect. So that's why I'm more curious. And then
no, it's I probably should reflect some more at some points, but yeah, I think but I don't know if it's the indie hacking that makes it harder. I think we face challenges with ourselves and our products and our work, no matter what kind of work we're doing. So I don't think it's specific to indie hacking. I guess if I was doing indie hacking 100% of the time, the like stress of getting the acquisitions, like the growth happening, would be high. but I kind of took that out of the equation by not doing it that way. I think that would be very stressful for me if I had to like have so and such much money a month by this time. I think that would be hard. But a thing I do find challenging is that I talk to my customers and they are very happy often, or they like send me a bug and I fix it and they're very happy. And I think that's amazing. And then I forget to talk to them for a while. And then I kind of convince myself that they secretly hate the product. And then I don't talk to them. And then I should be talking to them. And I think that's also like, if we were more people on the team that were as committed as it would be kind of, we might be able to talk ourselves out of that like more easily. And whenever I say it out loud, it feels so stupid, but that's exactly what's happening. I'm like, they secretly hate my product. They're just not telling me.
Or they love it. They love your product, maybe.
Yeah, they might, but I'm not asking them because I have decided in my head that they secretly hate my product. And then whenever I talk to them, like this one person, there was a time zone bug. Like she was sitting in California and all her entries were happening when she saved. They ended up on the day before and then the day before, and it all shifted. And I was so embarrassed, and I fixed it, and I got like the nicest email back. It's like, oh, thank you so much for like fixing this. And I was like, whoa, like, why are you thanking me? I should be thanking you.
You found the bug, huh?
Yeah. But it's a little bit sad though, that the only often, and I know that as being an indie hacker, I've learned to become a much more vocal customer. Like I will tell people I like their product, especially if I know that they're a small company. I will like email them and be like, oh, this was a great update, or thank you for the latest newsletter. Because I know how it is to be on the other side. And I know that people not contacting me can be a really good sign. Like they're using the product. It's not giving them any errors. But still, I'm like, why are nobody talking to me? So as a customer myself now, like I'm very vigilant and like being proactive and telling the founders that I enjoy their product and that and stuff like that, because I guess that's the part of being in the hacker that is as harder, and you don't have like a big sales team that are out there talking to people all the time.
Yeah. I want to move to a bit more your tech stack. And I know that you're also on YouTube talking about it. But could you tell us a bit about your tech stack? What do you use for developing the Power App, and also like for end-to-end encryption, if you use anything specific? And if you can like briefly talk about that, will be awesome, actually. I'm really curious.
Yeah, so the POW app is a Gatsby application. So I use that because it's a good starter. And also I want to use more of those progressive web application capabilities. And I know that I can do that with Gatsby, and it was something I knew. And together with that, I use something called Userbase for the backend, which does all the end-to-end encryption for me, and user authentication, and kind of the backend as a service, I guess that's called. And then I use Material UI for the UI, so I don't have to make everything from scratch, take some of that, analysis, paralysis that I can't say in English away from me. And then right now, I guess I'm using ConvertKit for onboarding users, but I'm going to be moving to UserList, which is another indie company. And the reason for that is because ConvertKit obviously is not really for kind of messaging current users, but they were the only ones I found where I could turn off tracking easily. But then I talked to the founders of UserList that is more geared towards messaging between application and users. And then they implemented a way for me to turn off all tracking, which is important to me as a privacy first application. I don't want to then track my users' communication. And also, if I start sending out emails with links to, kind of sensitive subjects, I don't want to know who clicked what link at what time. That feels invasive for me. So next week or the week after, I will be moving over to UserList, and I will probably do that on stream together with the founder of UserList. So that will be fun.
Nice.
And then kind of the the embarrassing part of my tech stack is that I'm using Squarespace for the marketing page.
Okay. Yeah,
Oh,
it's not that much.
and then I
Yeah.
forgot I use Fathom Privacy First Analytics for my kind of
Mhm.
both website and web app analytics.
Do you have any plans for mobile apps? Because I see this case and I was more curious.
So I actually come from a background where we made native apps
Hmm.
in 2009, 2010. I just find the whole experience of updating native apps takes so much time, the organizational part of it. I know it's
Hmm.
gotten a little bit better, but there's like certificates and there's this and there's that, and you have to
Yes.
upload. And then, and whenever, because I actually maintained a native app for governmental agency for a couple of years. And then I moved over to kind of the Jamstack on my side project. And whenever I had to do anything with the App Store, I kind of dreaded it. It took like a day because I had to, sometimes I even had to like update my whole computer because I
Yeah.
needed this latest Xcode. So that's a long answer to the short answer is no.
Okay.
My
Yeah.
plan is to stay a web app, and I think and hope that that will be more mainstream going forward. If I if I'm not correct in that in that in that prediction, then I think in a couple of years it would be I would look into making kind of a, wrap the web app in some
Hmm.
way so that it's available on the App Store. Because that's actually one of the biggest support issues I do have is that people can't find the app on the App Store
Yeah.
because it's an app. They think they have to go to an App Store. And I understand why. So I try to kind of also educate them on why it's a web app.
Hmm.
Um, and I've not looked into this, but I also think there's some extra loops you have to jump through on the app stores if you're doing encrypted end-to-end encryption.
Yes. Hmm.
So I haven't really. So I just kind of pushed that. I haven't I just decided that
Okay.
I won't spend time on that for a while.
Yeah.
Um, yeah, and also payment is harder, and
Yes, of course.
yeah.
I'm an iOS developer, and I know all the pains.
Yeah, then yeah.
Yeah, exactly. That's why I asked actually in the first place. Like, I'm an ex iOS developer. Like,
Yeah,
for the last maybe it's almost 1.5 year, I'm working
yeah,
on the back end, but
yeah,
still, my heart is beating on the iOS a little bit
yeah,
more. That's why I was curious more.
yeah.
Okay.
I know you can make some really good apps, but that whole kind of
Yeah.
uploading and certificates and getting, we had to get the director of the governmental
Yeah.
agency to get on there to sign something because we were releasing, and it's like,
No,
come on, if
we
this
don't like that too. So
if that was if it was if this was the Jamstack, I'm like push to main and then boom, it's live. It's like what,
yeah.
5 minutes max, and then oh okay, for this app version it's just going to take us 7 hours to get it.
Yeah, as an iOS developer, I know that we don't like that either. So no one likes it.
Yeah. Yeah, I know now that there are some kind of places where you can do more kind of continuous development also for
Yeah,
native applications. So yeah.
yeah.
But if you want the short answer, I do not have any immediate plans for native applications, mostly because I'm the only developer and I need to spend the
Hmm.
time on creating the features that the users need. And then I try to educate them on why it's a web app. It's one of the first emails in the onboarding sequence. And
Hmm.
when they understand that, most of them are fine. Like, I teach them how to save it to their home screen, because
Hmm.
what most people are looking for when they're looking for the app in the app store is because they want that square on their
Yes.
screen. So as soon as you teach them how to get that square on there, then they're fine with it not being a native app.
Hmm.
But I'm hoping to then add more progressive web application kind of capabilities so that it's better in offline mode, and it's those kinds of things. But
Hmm.
I'm
Yeah.
also pushing those things a little ahead of me into the future, because I want to get the feature set more solid before I introduce service workers and those kinds of things, because I know that that can kind of mess things up a little bit if you don't do it correctly. So I'm
Yeah.
keeping it as simple as possible
Yeah.
at the moment.
So it's staying focused basically.
Hmm.
I like that. So we are coming to an end a little bit, and I want to ask you, what would be your, let's say, top three advice for people who are starting from scratch? Do you have anything particularly helpful for them?
I would say launch long before you think you're ready. And two, no free plan. People on free plan do need a lot of support. So I rather have fewer customers on the paid plan. And then three, yeah, play the long game. It's going to take a lot longer than you think to get traction, especially if you don't have, if you want to do the indie hacking way and you're not a marketing genius. It's going to take longer than you think.
I like the second point though, because I always think that free trials or free versions are really nice, but I totally see the point.
So what I do instead is that I have money back guarantees. So for POW, it's a 60-day money back guarantee, because then you probably have had 2 full cycles, and I will refund your money, no questions asked. And I've done that quite a few times. But the people who will convince themselves to pay for a product at such an early stage, they are usually better at figuring things out on their own. Like if half finished, not a half, I wouldn't say it's half finished, but like it's got its quirks, you know. They're better at that. They're usually kind of in the early adopter mentality, so they're kind of easier to work with as a customer base. While and I know this, I've talked to several people, and I've also made, you know, iPhone apps in my past. And the cheaper something is, the more, like, the angrier people get in support and the more support they want, which is really weird. But I've read this book about like purchasing psychology, where it actually makes sense, because the higher price the purchase is, the more you kind of have to convince yourself it's the correct purchase. So then going into that purchase, you have convinced yourself that the product is something that you need and are willing to take a bet on. So you've kind of already convinced yourself it's good. But if it's like $1, you're like, oh, it's $1, I'll just buy this game, you know, this iPhone game. And you'll see that like the reviews, so many bad reviews, because they're still reviewing it as if it would have cost a lot more, but they didn't have to convince themselves. So I think that's very important when you're starting out, because a lot of people burn out on free trials. And I will probably at some point move into a free trial kind of situation. But when things are more solid and I got the feature set kind of in place, and I managed to make a full FAQ and all of that, and we can like move into more of a aggressive customer acquisition phase, then I think we'll go and have a free trial. But now, like, it's better to have it paid so that I can focus on creating the product and not supporting people who complain.
Well, thanks a lot. So we are at the end, and for the people who want to reach Benedicte, that you will find the links in the description of this podcast episode, and all of the links that her YouTube channel, like the POV app links and everything, you will find in the descriptions. And I want to thank you, Benedicte, for joining me here, because this was one of the things that I was really curious about, being an indie developer and playing the long game. And now I have a couple of notes that I need to go and think through and see how am I doing or what I want to do. And thanks a lot for teaching me many things and showing me a little bit light on the way. Thanks a lot.
Well, thank you for listening. It's always nice when somebody wants to listen to your like hard-earned life lessons or whatever. So thank you for that.
Yeah, thanks a lot for joining.
And subscribe to my YouTube channel.
Yeah, that's fun.
It makes me happy.
Go and subscribe to Benedicte's YouTube channel.
Bye-bye.
Bye. If you liked this episode, please follow the show and share the episode with one of your friends, colleagues, or family members who might find it interesting. Until next time, take care.